And he knows that when somebody has been impeached, he has no business going around and misleading people. The country is bigger than any of us as individuals. It is time for us to move forward, and I wanted to really request that we do just that as we go forward.
Do you sit with the people? Do you talk with the people? Do you eat with the people? No. It's now a time for us to have the good treasures.
Walimu wote tunasema karibuni, mjisikie mko nyumbani. Tunaomba Bwana
kidogo tu.
Sidahe damoyo kwange. Haleluya.
Na mulekwa n'abatuli ebobwe nze kutanga kuliza n'omalele Musa. Nembo kumalele Musa. Direction on the press to give their viewpoints. So we shall be listening what we say. Na jikimu anapokuja kwenye kanisa aone kwamba kuna uzuri.
Karibu sana nyumbani. Cabinet Secretary, karibu sana nyumbani. Asante, tunaona MC wetu. Asante.
To negotiate in the usual way with the elders and my brothers and relatives. The whole process started it was not very easy. Happily I had come here with Dr. and took part in the proceedings.
Lakini nataka kuomba ndogo yangu mzee mwenye ananishika mkono parliament, Baba Oboro, naomba waambie baba, sisi hapa nimekuwa Homa Bay, nimeona viongozi wote wanasema 2027 wako nyuma ya William Samoei Ruto. Lakini mkija hapa kama ODM mnaambia Sifuna aseme sisi tuko opposition. Sasa hawa watu wako wanapotoshwa, hawataki kuitisha president hapa aleta maendeleo, kwa sababu wanafikiri bado wako opposition, wakipotoshwa na Sifuna na Osozi. Sasa Osozi amekuwa vizuri, ameenda kuimprove. Lakini sasa Sifuna tunaomba mfute yeye ama ageuze mwenendo. Tunataka raundi hii watu wa Vihiga wakuje waende State House walete mifugo mali hapa kama nyinyi. Namna hivyo. Kwa sababu Homa Bay president alipata kura 3,000 peke yake. Na kufikia sasa hii ameongeza bilioni 10,000. Siaya president alipata kura kabla 10,000 sijui. Lakini amepata 5 bilioni na anaendelea kuongezeka. Hapa Vihiga mlipana 25%. Na sijaona president kileta mali hapa kwa sababu nyinyi mnadanganywa, mseme mko opposition na Sifuna na mnakataa kuleta president hapa, mchange mwenendo wenu na mlete president hapa kupitia prime cabinet secretary. Tunataka president akuje hapa tuone kapu ya maendeleo. Mungu awabariki.
Hii mchezo hata mimi nashindwa MCA unaongea mambo ya Kalonzo. Kalonzo ni nani Kenya hii? Kalonzo ni mtu ako kwa hewa, haelewi mambo, hata hajui serikali itaundwa lini, hata hajui mambo itapangwa namna gani. Ukisimama mbele ya watu mheshimiwa, usikuwa unaongea maneno ya mtu kama Kalonzo, ongea maneno ya Raila, ongea maneno ya Musalia, na unaongea maneno ya Ruto. Hao ndio watu tunataka tusikie wanasema nini. Analetea sisi vitu kama hiyo. We cannot allow watu ambao wameshindwa kupanga serikali kukuja kutuletea mchezo. Huyu Musalia alituambia tufuate Ruto. Tukafuata Ruto, tumepata prime cabinet secretary. Alafu hata mkaona ndugu yetu mkubwa mwenye tulipigia kura hapa mingi, yeye pia akapitia nyuma akaingia kwa broad based. Kwani nyinyi mnafikiria sisi ni wajinga? Wewe Musalia fanya kazi, sisi tutakupatia ile support unataka, na kama iko mambo ingine hapa nyumbani tutapanga moja kwa moja. Wewe mahali umefika, hatujawahi kuguza mtu hapa Uluyani kufika hapo, na hatuwezi kukubali uondoke hapo tu, kwa sababu mahali umefika ni mahali ambapo inastahili sisi tukujenge, na tutahakikisha ya kwamba kama watu wa jamii hii tunaendelea kukaa nyuma yako kuhakikisha ya kwamba tunakupatia ile political support ambayo unahitaji kama kiongozi katika nchi hii, na pia kama kiongozi kutoka hapa. Kila mtu mambo yakifanyika kwake anakumbuka nyumbani. Kuna mtu alikuwa anatoka Bulawayo, alikuwa anaitwa John Bosco. Alikuwa anaimba akisema, hakuna mtu wa kusema kule kwetu ni kubaya, watu wote mpaka wazee wanalia mpaka kwao. Hata mbio ikitoka hapa saa hii, Orengo atakimbia akienda Siaya. Hata mambo ikifanyika mbaya saa hii Mutula Kilonzo utakimbia ukienda Ukambani. Na wewe Musalia pia hata kikiumana utakimbia ukirudi wapi? Hapa nyumbani.
Hapa tuko.
We are not interfering with anything. We have a 10-point agenda. We have come together in a broad-based manner to work with the government, but we are still in the opposition. And we want you, we respect Musalia. Musalia was the chief campaigner for Raila in 2017 elections. And we want to work together for the benefit of our people. Let us work together. Honorable Ososi, let us not leave it to Musalia. Let us also try to bring it together. Whatever that 30% was, let us try to bring it together, because by stressing that we still want that 30%, if it doesn't come, so what? So let us work together and let us move on. Let us move on. 2027, we shall discuss it when we reach there. You don't cross the bridge before you reach the bridge. We'll cross it when we reach there.
Hii kitu ya social media, which we all like, and we are not saying don't use it. Lakini tafadhali, be reasonable and careful when you use it. Be careful on how you use it. Because what is happening, as you have seen, the United States has now said that they are going to introduce a parameter of following your social media footprint. Kile unaweka kwa mtandao, ukitaka kusafiri kwenda kwao, wanaanza kuchunguza kuona mtandao wako ulikuwa wa aina gani. Kwa hivyo wewe kama ulikuwa mtu wa matusi, kama wa kuweka watu kwa mambo ambayo haieleweki, utajipata matatani wakati unatafuta visa. Don't be surprised. Even now, they may not have said it, but I can tell you, employers have also started looking at your social media activity. Because we are moving into this digital space, unaweka footprint pale, wanakufata, and it might harm you later. So I'm only pleading as an elder and as a Kenyan to the young people of this country, let us be responsible as we engage on our digital platforms, because we may be shooting ourselves in the foot if we are not careful. I fully support devolution. The government of Kenya fully supports devolution. And people may not know, but I'm sure James Orengo, my good friend, knows that when we were in the Grand Coalition government, I was then tasked as the Minister for Local Government to pioneer the legislation after we passed the 2010 Constitution, to pioneer the legislation that would make sure that by the time we get to the election In 2014, the laws to kickstart devolution must be in place. As Minister for Local Government in the Grand Coalition Government, I remember appointing Mutaka Kangu as the chair of the task force that spearheaded the ground or the foundation of devolution. And I was able to deliver 6 pieces of legislation on time, on schedule, in Parliament to be approved, so that by the time we were coming to the general election, we had devolution in place for the first governors to be elected. So I have a history with devolution. Raila has a history with devolution. Nilikuwa nikisema NASA. Nilimaliza kusema NASA, nikasema earthquake, sasa tumeingia broad based. Muniangalie vizuri mjue nitasema nini hapo mbele. Si namna hiyo? Alafu tusonge mbele na mambo yote yatakuwa sawa. Lakini not too long ago, President Ruto and myself were on the front line campaigning for our elder brother Raila Odinga to become the chair of the African Union Commission. That again was a way of saying that we can work together going forward. So even now, I want to tell you people, we can work together. Raila is somebody whose faculties are intact. His faculties are fully intact. And Raila has made the deliberate decision as the leader of the ODM party to make sure that ODM partners with Kenya Kwanza in moving forward and tackling the challenges of this country. Please remember what I have said. With his full faculties, he has a reason why he wants people to work together. So let us work together. Let us not look at things from always the black and gray agenda or black and white. Tujipange kabisa, kwa sababu hatuwezi kuja hapa alafu tunalalamika Raila amefanya hii, Orengo amepeleka delegation, nani alifungia wewe mlango? Bwana Deputy Governor, wewe usiseme ati mlango ifunguliwe. Mlango iko wazi. Ni wewe na gavana wako na wengine mujipange vile Orengo alijipanga. Hapana kuja ambia Musalia aende kufungua mlango na mlango iko wazi. Make sure that we strive to make devolution work and it becomes successful. We may have teething problems or obstacles from time to time, but we shall not abandon devolution. We must respect each other. We can have the normal competition, but we must respect each other. That is how we build a nation. That is how we make a better society. So I want to really plead that let us always respect each other. There are good things and there are also challenging things. And sometimes there are bad things. As you know also, President Ruto is the champion for the African reform agenda, African Union reform agenda. And over and above that, he has been at the forefront in articulating reform of the global governance structures, both within the financial architecture and also within the other agencies, including the United Nations, and more so the UN Security Council. So this is a very critical step in his drive to ensure that Africa gets its rightful position within the international arena.
Today is a very important day because we have made a tremendous step towards advancing the mandate of C10, which was to promote and advocate for the Common African Position to be reflected in the UN Security Council reform. Today, the foreign ministers who have gathered here in Lusaka have adopted what is called the Freetown outcome. The Freetown outcome includes the African model on UN Security Council reform, an aid memo and a roadmap for engagement, and common African language that will be used in terms of promoting the common African position and building consensus on it as the C10 was mandated. So today, the fact that the Freetown outcome was adopted by consensus is very good because it gives the right instruments for the team in New York to proceed with presenting it to the 79th session of the UN General Assembly so that it can be included in the development of the consolidated model. On our part in Addis Ababa, we've been instructed to put in place mechanisms to ensure that the C10 is facilitated in terms of resources to allow for the various actors from the heads of state who are the members of C10, the ministerial team and the ambassadors team to be able to advance the work of the African Union in the reform of the UN Security Council. The reform of the UN Security Council falls within the larger ambit of ensuring that there is a democratic representation of Africa in the institutions not only of governance but also of trade and commerce globally, to ensure that Africa has its rightful place and space in international fora so that it advances the lofty aspirations of the African people with a promise to promote the African agenda globally and ensure that the African voice is heard. So this has been a very successful meeting and we are looking for a very good outcome in terms of advancing the C10 mandate.
All the processes, starting from the conversation with our permanent representatives, both within the AU and the United Nations, then moving forward to the ministerial segment, we have come to a successful conclusion on what are the next steps and what we ought to do, particularly bearing in mind that this issue has been on the agenda for a long time. For 20 years now, we continue to have this conversation. And yet this year, the United Nations was celebrating its 80th anniversary. And the whole process of reform still continues to linger on. The first round when they incorporated members to the Permanent Security Council was at the very beginning. Then in the 60s, they made some adjustment. Africa was left out. And to this date, Africa has not had any representative within the United Nations Security Council on a permanent basis. So this is what we seek to address. So the Africa position has been firmed up. We are seeking this is the common African position, 2 permanent slots in the UN Security Council. And we are also saying that Africa should have 5 non-permanent security slots. That means each region is covered within the continent. And that is what we are pursuing.
Alisemaje? tutamwambia kama ako serious na kama hataki repercussions apeleke hiyo hospitali.
Of the Republic of Sierra Leone. As he comes through, let's give him a round of applause. Now for political affairs, peace and security. Round of applause.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your time.
Go ahead. Tell us when you are done. That's the end. Okay?
Allow me now to call upon the Honorable Minister, Honorable Mlambo Haim. Allow me to just make a few announcements. The Honorable Minister, after we close, for the rest of the delegates, you will be guided. So we have a select team of delegates that our Minister says goodbye by handing over special. Allow me to now hand over the floor to...
Of 10 to a close, I wish to extend my sincere congratulations to all your active participation. Your dedication, thoughtful insight, and collaborative spirit to us by our heads of state and government. Let me also extend once Day Hichilima, the government and people of the Republic of Zambia for the general and technical support throughout the course of this meeting. I also for their coordination and support in convening this important session. Remains the only legitimate and inclusive platform accepted by all UN member states to pursue that actively champions the core values and principles of the United Nations. Outcome document, the African Union model of reform, the aid memoir, and the role more effectively in the IGN process and with relevant stakeholders. The Lusaka, it will serve as a critical instrument to advise and support the CETA.
Delivered by His Excellency Mr. Timothy Mosakaba, Minister of Foreign Affairs and International. Thank you very much for taking the lead in these conversations.
And there we have it, ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable Minister.
Maybe you, before you go too far, before we conclude, let me just...
Today is a very momentous occasion for us as the African continent, having our ministers for foreign affairs to adopt the African model on the reform of the Security Council. As His Excellency, the Foreign Affairs Minister of Kenya said, President William Ruto has been one of the consistent advocates for reform of the global governance system, including the reform of the UN Security Council. So for 20 years as a global community, but also as the African continent, we've been speaking about reform of the Security Council based on the common African position, which has been articulated by His Excellency, the Foreign Minister. But for us as permanent representatives at the UN, we did not have the tools with which to negotiate with other groups that are interested in this. So we needed, for example, to develop a model on the basis of which we needed to engage with other groups from other continents or other interest groups, for example, groups from the small island states, which also have put forward a position. There are groups from the Arab states, which also have put forward their models. So today is a very important day for those of us who work or represent our countries at the UN in New York, because now we have, as I said, a framework that we are going to use to engage with other groups. Secondly, in terms of the process, from this point on, we've been given the mandate to present the African position to the co-chair of the UN Security Council reforms. That's the permanent representative of Kuwait, who will then use the African model together with all the other models that have been put forward by other groups to develop a consolidated model. So it's our hope that that will be achieved during the current session of the General Assembly, which is the 79th session. Then beyond that, once we've achieved some form of consensus on that, then we will then move to the penultimate phase, which will be the text-based negotiations. But that will come further down the road.